I think our SCP is roughly 60 people. So for the first time doing something like this, at least during my, I've been here 5 months, this is great. Definitely more than I expected for just our initial conversation. But I'm still new to the district. I'm about 5-6 months in now. I joined the Summerfield team in mid-August. My name's August Ost. Joined the Summerfield team 18 years prior in Dundee. So it's been a great, 6 months of learning, and pretty much every day you're learning something new when you go to a new district. So change is hard. It's starting over, but it's been a pleasure. And I mean, there's great people here, great families here. So truly, it's been enjoyable. So as we're doing this, drinks are up here. There's still some pizza left, even after the girls' basketball team got out of practice early to, I think, raise as much as they could. There's still some up here. Help yourself. If you have to use the restroom, help yourself. Kind of free-flowing, casual. We're going to inform you of a lot of things Summerfield related, and then we'll talk to you a little bit about some things that the district is considering at the end. So starting off, though, Miss Booker, elementary principal, she's going to get us going, talking about a couple things elementary specific.
I don't have the same booming voice as August does, so I'm going to use the microphone a little bit. So those of you, most of you look around and see a lot of faces that I know. There's a lot of Summerfield history. If you've ever, this is in the library uptown, and it's in our library, but how many of you own a book like this, or have seen a book like this? It has some wonderful history of Summerfield. So when I was going to he said, do the history of the district. Then I got all into this book and rereading it again, because I had read it before, and I'm not going to take you all the way back to the 1800s for the school of Summerfield. But so we're going to fast forward a little bit and talk about in 1940, start with 1947, because who knows before it was Summerfield High School, what it was called? Petersburg High School. And there were some names before that, and actually the spelling of Petersburg was actually different at one point than it is now. It had an H in it. And originally everything was over, of course, where the elementary building is, and it housed K through 12th graders. At first it was just K through 10th graders, which I found very interesting. They must have not had any juniors or seniors at that time. But then over the new high school, at one time, and tell me if this is rumor or not, 'cause I did not see this in the book, maybe Mr. Hewitt knows, at one time I had heard that in that building, with portables outside, held 1,500 kids. He's shaking his head yes. I don't see how it's possible. K-12, 1,500 kids with portables outside as well, which is when they needed to build the high school over here, which was completed and ready to roll in 1975. Since I've been here, in 2005, many of you who've been around remember we did a huge bond issue then for lots of renovations on both buildings and the grounds, and we didn't start school on time that year. It looked like we were, but permits and things with the state take a little bit longer sometimes than you wish they would. And then in 2019, the 2005 bond was extended and allowed the district to spend another $2 million on safety and the energy and athletics and some site work. So I think about we used to always refer to this as the new building. Well, the new building was built in 75, so it's not very new anymore. And that building has had several wings and things added to it over the years, and definitely not that big. In fact, I recall our architect that came out, Craig Stell, that came out in 2005, and he's from Ohio, and at that time Ohio had where you would go and you had this checklist and you go through, and if at a certain point, you get points in this, and at a certain point they would just tear down the building and start new. So he told Mr. Hewitt and myself for the elementary building, this would meet the qualifications to be torn down and put up new. But we said we don't want to do that. We just want to take what we have, maintain it, and keep it in our community right in the middle of town still. So that's a little history of what we have for the district. Just to kind of keep you up to date, because when I started here, we had 3 sections at every grade level. Every once in a while, a 4th. Right now, we have 2 sections at every grade level. There's our numbers of enrollment up there. Starting with our preschool and going all the way to 6th grade, a total of 353 are housed in the building over there, and then the staff members that we have on this side. Some of the things that we consider our points of pride, we have free preschool for all 4-year-olds. We're looking at a possibility of a 3-year-old program next year. 2 to 3 sections of each grade level, but we have small class sizes. We have a wonderful STAT process as a student-teacher assistance team. We kind of rejuvenated that this year with the help of some of our teachers. The community has always been very supportive I mean, since we are a small school, you have lots of different groups, and we ask you for lots of different, well, fundraising opportunities, and the district has always, the community has always been very supportive. We're one-on-one with technology, thanks to our technology village, and we have an elementary robotics team now. We have a win time, which is what everyone needs time. So academically, wherever you are in the area of reading, everyone stops and moves around, and everybody's needs are met at the same time in our lower elementary. Thanks to COVID, we have updated curriculum. The government gave us some ESSER funds, and it just hit at a time where we really, really needed to update some of our curriculum, and we're able to do that not only in this building, but also in our building. And we have 100% of our staff is highly qualified. This is a big point of pride that we have this year. This is it's from My School Data, and it's a school index. And you'll see the top one, it gives an overall index. Summerfield had 94.92% out of 100 this year. The other 7 areas are the categories they used to come up with that percentage. And on the other side, it shows where we fell in line with the county this year, and we were number 1. At the bottom here,
I'll do it. You want to talk about it?
so at the bottom here, I did want to show you, because there is this, there's a lot of data on schools, and if you're ever bored, you can't sleep at night, you can go on there and you can cruise around, but I just want to show you where you go there. You just click on My School Data, type in Summerfield.
So I went K-12, and we'll send this out so you can see it, but for today's purposes, I went K-12, school accountability, and then school index. Once you're there, you can search by any school, statewide, not just our county, but we'll go to Jody's elementary school, and then.
That's how that came up.
And it's an interactive document, so for example, what does 90.57% proficiency index mean? So when you get in here, you can actually click in it and see.
It tells you where that number came from.
And they all compile to come up with that overall score that Ms. Booker proudly said the elementary led the county in on. That's great. But we'll send the directions out on that if you do want. My School Data is so much more than just a school index, but that's one piece of it for sure that we're proud of.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Klozinski.
Thank you. One of my favorite things to do is to brag on our Bulldog students and our Bulldog staff, but I was given a time limit, so I'm going to try to be very, very brief. Here in the high school, our enrollment is kind of listed there. We are right now at exactly 250 students. As you can see, we are about to graduate in just under a semester, senior parents. 37, which is the smallest class that we have in this building. And then once they are out the door and on to bigger and better things, our enrollment is very, very steady over the next couple of grades, and we are excited at the bigger numbers coming up from the elementary to continue to help grow our district and our options. I also have a listing of our staff here as well. Newest to this building is we are very, very fortunate to be in our 4th year to have a full-time social worker here in this building to help with the students' social and emotional needs as well. So as Jody kind of showed as well, wanted to shout out again a little bit for us, our junior senior high My School Data reports. And again, you can access this just like Mr. Oast showed with the elementary data just a little bit. Our rating took us to an 89.77, which the competitive person that I am, I'm like, that is so close to being an A. Like, can we please round that up? Hopefully next year. And as you can see, 89.77 put us in 2nd place in the county. Still a lot to be proud of. And as you can see, we are just under 1 percentage point from that number 1 spot. So we have some big goals for the coming years, and we have some incredibly talented and smart kiddos that we think are going to get us there. So we're excited for what the future has to offer. And like Mr. O showed, when you go to My School Data, the index report, you are able to click on every individual one so you can see what those other 7 boxes, how that got us to that overall rating.
Yeah. And I think that graduation rate, that's something to always be proud of. I think it says a lot. We could have picked something out of Ms. Booker's too. But that graduation rate of 100% says a lot about our high school. Ms. Breskill, she just ran the programming meeting just before this. Ms. Blazinski, that's awesome. 100% of the kiddos graduating, it's just a great accomplishment. Not all schools can say that. So, I mean, the whole thing is awesome, but to say that is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer in that when a student takes one test on one day, it is not the full measure of who that student is as an individual or what their potential is for their future and meeting their future goals. However, it remains a big part in how schools and unfortunately also educators are judged. A part of our rating does come back to these results. And we have a lot to be proud of in this category as well. When you are comparing Somerville Junior Senior High students with those across the state of Michigan and even Monroe County, we are consistently above the state average and the county average. And we are very, very proud of that result as well.
And if you ever want to see data, I mean, we have data out, coming out everywhere, right? There's data all across the board. We'd be happy to dig into it with you, but putting it up here and talking about data on a ton of stuff, here, test, ton of grades, you guys would be sleeping. But love to talk about it if you ever want to.
And if you ever need good sleeping material,
Yeah.
I can share those documents with you. Here at the Junior Senior High, again, we like to pride ourselves in, we have some major, major goals. When students come in our doors, they always come in, no two students are alike, no two students are cookie cutter model of each other. So our goal is always to meet that student where they are, but also challenge them to build their grit, build their resiliency, and to help make them capable of reaching their goals, whatever their post-secondary plans might be, whether it's just to be gainfully employed, to go into the trades, or to go into the college. We want, again, to meet them where they are and then to challenge them to be able to build on what they want to do when they walk out our doors and across that graduation stage. So in looking at recent years, some of the new things that we have done to help meet our students' needs, whether they are high achievers, whether they are middle of the road, or whether they are kind of lower flyers. We have done a lot of new things to offer additional support for that lower tier, to challenge and help build that grit and resiliency for that middle block of students, but then also, again, to really challenge and push forward our highest, our best and brightest as well. So a lot of the new things that we have offered has been with that in mind. How are we going to meet the needs of our lowest? How are we going to challenge and build our middle? And how are we really going to push our upper kiddos to excel? With that, again, we have over the past couple of years offered a multiple of different options for, as Mrs. Bruskel said in our scheduling meeting, for a lot of our kiddos from sophomore year up to begin taking college classes and begin earning those college credits. We as a school can pay for up to 10 classes over the course of a student's high school career. That saves our families a lot of money, and it kind of gives them a little like baby step before they totally are out of that nest and really into that whole atmosphere to kind of see what it is that they want to do. We have completely revamped our schedule within the last couple of years to offer that common, we call it BAT, Bulldog Achievement Time. And that time is purposely so that any student who needs to get additional help for a teacher can get a pass and they can go get that extra academic help and support. That's been huge for our kiddos. We also, thanks to some very, very generous grants, have been able to offer our students extra help after school as well with what we call 8-hour after-school tutoring. Again, just trying to offer our kids the help and the support they need to reach their goals. In reaching, again, those student goals, we have offered over the past couple of years a number of new elective offerings, again, designed either to support our struggling students or to challenge, meet the needs, and meet the interests of the rest of our student body. Some that have been particularly exciting have been coding, especially with the computer science industry blowing up the way it is. It's always great when students know how to use computers better than myself. And then again, officiating, tackling into that sports interests, and also things like math lab, enrichment, and junior high seminar and student success to, again, support students who may be struggling a little bit with organization, test-taking skills, note-taking skills. I'll say organization again because that's usually the biggest one that we really work with. And then again, in the last couple of years, new program offerings. We now offer bowling as a state-recognized varsity sport, and the kids love it. If you've never been to one of their meets, it is a lot of fun. We also are in our 4th year of robotics, and they have been state ranked 2 of the last 3 years. So we are very proud of them and all of the time and effort that they have put into that as well. Now, looking to the future, again, we are constantly looking at what can we do to meet the needs of our students. Some things that we are exploring and some things that we are hoping to bring to our students very soon is we are very excited about the world of CTE programming. And we are hoping to eventually be a site for CTE program options for our county. That is a conversation that Mr. Ost and I have had numerous times, and Mrs. Ruskell as well, and that is something that we are hoping to develop and bring here to our Summerfield community. We are also hoping to support those struggling students with a growing peer-to-peer program, and we are also currently in conversations with our staff as to what new elective options we're going to be offering next year. Among those that have been listed have included a statistics class, a history of sports class, a music production class. We're excited to offer these opportunities for our kids, so very excited there. We are also, if you were in the previous scheduling meeting as well, we just entered into a dual enrollment partnership with Siena Heights University. So they will be our direct instruction provider for teaching college classes right here in Summerfield schools. And then in the future, we are hoping to expand this relationship to offer a middle college option beginning in the 26-27 school year. So very excited about the great things that are to come for Summerfield community and Summerfield schools. And I had to do this slide because at the end of the day, everything we do is all about them. And it made me happy. I'll pass the mic over to Mr. Ost.
All right, I'm going to shut that one off if you want. I'm going to use this one only because this is what Mr. Raymond, so we're recording this so those that can't be here can actually, go through and see things tonight. So Mr. Raymond has us hooked up. We appreciate him, but I'll use this just so I know when we're watching they can hear. On the speaker was right above it, so I think we were probably pretty good. But one of my first things I'm talking about is student enrollment. We have about a 23-ish, hard to believe, so I graduated high school in 2001, 2002, so it's like a long, time flies, just a long time ago. But since, if you look at this 02-03 school year, there were 842 kiddos in the Summerfield district. We're currently down, that was last year, 23-24 is that final bar, 564 kids. So enrollment we've had a downward trend, and there's a few different reasons for that. We have a couple thoughts that we have. Like, I come from an area, I mentioned I came from Dundee. I joined the Summerfield family from an area that had, I think, 2 mobile home parks, 5 subdivisions, Bell Estates, so apartments, condos, townhouses. We don't really have that here. It's a good thing. It's a blessing and a curse, right? When we're talking about a decline in enrollment, the housing and the way that it is structured here versus other areas, it can be a challenge. So it's not a bad thing whatsoever, but it definitely contributes to the fact that things kind of are on that downward trend. I think about Kelly Kelb. She's our athletic director. And one of the first conversations she and I had, she's like, August, next year, my youngest graduates, and she's like, I love it here. I'm not leaving. So that house, she's like, a lot of people, their kids might graduate, they might leave, a new family will move into that house, that new family might have younger kids. She's like, that's not like what happens in Summerfield. She's like, I have no interest in leaving this community. So when Bryce graduates next year, she's like, I'm sorry. We don't want her to go anywhere. But she's like, I'm sorry. That just counts towards another example of families that just stay here. They love the small town. They love the feel of the community. And it just doesn't work from an enrollment standpoint in our favor, but it says a lot about the community, and it makes Summerfield what it is. Citizens enjoy it. Minimal residential growth is expected too, and that's really across the state. There are some odd areas where the enrollment's going up, but statewide projections are that the birth rates are down. I think the prediction is through 2050-ish. We expect less kids to be going to all schools, not just Summerfield. So we don't expect this to necessarily turn right away and go right back up to where it's at, but our goal is through the added programming at the high school, the added support in the elementary school, we capitalize on the kiddos that are here and give them the best opportunity to be successful. Talked about that. Financial status. Miss Stevens, she's with us tonight. She's our shared time accountant. She and I have worked together quite a bit on this the last couple of days, but there's our fund balance going all the way back to 2017, 2018. Fund balance can be manipulated a bunch of different ways, but the bottom line is that when you compare the money that we have on hand versus the expenditures that we face, we have about a 20% fund balance, which is pretty solid. The state recommends at least 12. 12 is not always the most comfortable number, so you definitely want to have it a little bit higher than that, but you're considered doing okay if you have 12%. You can see, before COVID, I think it was Ms. Booker mentioned COVID, there was a lot of money, especially federal dollars, that came into schools. So you can see we were kind of down in that 14% range. COVID happened. What was that? Spring of 21. And then we started using the COVID dollars wisely, and Summerfield did a great job. I mean, going from 14% all the way up to 26% a couple years later, that just shows the wise spending over previous administrators and staff on playing it wisely. I mean, it really did help Summerfield. Hopefully we never have to do it again, right? COVID one and done. But from a financial standpoint, it did help add to the fund balance. The way school funding works, and this is something I never really realized until I got into administration in schools. Summerfield gets, for example, every kid, right, $9,608 per student. So every kiddo in that, if we go all the way back to the 53-ish kindergartners that came in, Summerfield is funded at $9,608 per student. That allocation, though, is considered the district's operational budget. So that's what it takes for like general maintenance, staff, the facilities to keep things running on a daily basis. Definitely not like new growth, or we're going to talk about some big needs the district has in a little while, such as like air handlers. If we start talking about that general operations budget, that is not meant to either add on to districts, and it's not meant to do like large projects. That $9,608 is just to educate a kiddo on a daily basis and not take on those big projects. There's actually a big study, and coincidentally, the results came out last Friday. But the bottom paragraph here, the School Finance Research Project study, they're making a recommendation to the state that in addition to the $9,608, that the state allocates $400 per student, just so those districts can maintain structures or add on if they need to build new. So funding, it's something, we're always talking funding, but I never really realized that just how it worked and what an operational budget is compared to building new, doing major overhauls, things like that. The source on all this, and you're going to get this shared with you, is the Mackinac Center, but a lot of data will be coming your way. So facilities. Ms. Bucher mentioned it, 1930s-ish is when that building, there's a lot of wings to the elementary building, but we're talking 1930s, we're talking 1975. Like you can't, this has been a horrible 6-month period in my house. I think my furnace has went down, my stove has went down, my dishwasher has went down. Like things don't work forever, right? Just like at home, things that in our district, in our school, needs to be addressed too, especially when you get in older buildings. But some of the top facility needs, these are just rough costs that we tied to it. But there's 2 old boilers in the elementary school. Estimated cost to fix them is just under $142,000. Elementary lighting and electrical upgrades, that's a big price tag. I should have put a video on here. I was surprised my first time in the elementary. You're popping breakers to turn lights on and off. I was just blown away. But it's like that in a good chunk of the building. In the lighting and the electrical overall, just under $400,000 is just the general estimate. We've had some community partners come out and help give us some of these numbers. So that's where they came from. But a rough estimate on what an upgrade there would cost. The elementary roof, look at that giant range. We have, again, a local provider that are just taking time out of their schedules to help us get some numbers put together. So the $121,150, that's kind of like a maintenance plan where we could go up and possibly like look at the seams, look at some of like the areas where there's the greatest chance of leaking. But if we wanted to replace the roof, we're looking at $1.5 million to upwards of $2 million. Elementary controls, which is like building management, the elementary controls are so old that we really can't find anybody to come in and work on them anymore, so they need to be updated. We had a company, Night Watch, come out and work with Mr. Ryder, our maintenance director. That upgrade for that building is right around $90,000. So you can see it's just older buildings, older structures, just like at home, they need updates, and those are some of the top ones that we're looking at in the elementary. Junior, senior high school facility. Again, the controls, kind of like that building management, $205,300 for this building. Air handlers, there's 11 of them, $1.3 million for the air handlers is the estimate. The roof, again, the same range. The $103,000 is more of like that maintenance plan, and then a new roof altogether, we're looking at $1.2 million. So if the gentleman that looked at it, he's like, there's still useful life in the structure, the rubber itself. So his recommendation to be financially responsible would probably be to look at the seams and the stress points. But if we wanted to go all new, you can see how expensive a new roof is. And then some of the district needs. Safety updates, we're always looking at safety. A million examples of that we can talk about too. But transportation and buses, we have an aging bus fleet. When we talk about that operational allowance, that doesn't really allocate, buying new buses, that's a challenge districts have to take on. Parking lots, sidewalks, so we put some money, with it being sports season, we kind of lifted the sidewalks out here. They were really starting to go down, so we lifted them so at least we didn't have any trip hazards, especially with people coming in using the gym in the winter. So we're trying to put some fixes to things right now, but if you pump up a sidewalk, it's a short-term fix, but at least, from a safety standpoint, we want to make sure we're addressing those areas. So a bunch of those needs, and then I mentioned the study. This is what the actual Summerfield results were. So Plant Moran, they partnered with Barton Mallow, and I think it's not public yet. They haven't given us in a format that we can share. Once we do, we're definitely going to get that out there. But you can see they classify things in 3 categories. Either items that are critical, they need addressed within the next 1 to 3 years. And this, I'm telling you, when this email came out Friday, this was before me. I think in 2013 is when the study came out. The state set aside money to actually do facility studies because they knew that there was a lot of aging facilities in the state. And it gave they wanted to know what it would actually take. So they're asking for the information, the state is. We're hoping that they act on it, but there's never a guarantee on that. So the study, what it did is it broke things down into 3 categories. Critical needs, which you need to address it in 1 to 3 years. Near-term needs, what they've identified in our district as needing addressed in the next 4 to 6 years. And then long-term needs, 7 to 9 years. So all in all, if you add all those up in the next 9 years, the study came back at just over $20 million. But our focus right now, obviously, is the critical needs. We know the boilers aren't working as they should. We know we're spending a lot of money just to have them serviced and looked at pretty regularly to make sure the temperature in the buildings are controlled. So we've developed our priority list, but it was a blessing getting this. It gave me some more ideas of hey, you're not crazy. I didn't know this happened until the email came out on Friday. All the credit to Mr. Ryder and Mr. Sallow for getting it done in the board a couple of years ago in 2023. But it definitely supported what we're talking about. 93% of districts you can see on the right and ISDs participated in the study. The money was set aside in 2023. And then that bottom one I thought was important too. They made a note, it doesn't really include projects such as flooring, ceilings, painting, playgrounds, athletic fields. There's no fluff built into it. We're not looking in, they're not saying that the football field needs leveled or the football concession stand has a roof that needs addressed. None of that was looked at. Classroom furniture is old, buses, sidewalks. Those things weren't even factored into it. So there's a lot of needs, and we're going to be as transparent as possible when this study becomes public. We want you to see it because it's the reality of it. We want to make our district the hub of the community. We want to make sure we have a good district, a nice district that's visually appealing, it's taken care of. So that's kind of why we're bringing this up. And then I left my clicker. So the next slide, this is something the district's considering. You can see there's need, so it's my job to make recommendations to the board, and it's the board's job to act as the voice of the community to make decisions. So we're talking about 2 months ago in a board meeting, we brought up the idea of a sinking fund. There's 3 major ways to make large purchases that's available. There's bonds, which early on, Ms. Bucher talked about the bonds. We had the one pass here in 2005. On that one, there were 409 yes votes, 353 no votes, so fairly close. But Mr. Hewitt, he led the charge in 2005, and they got done. And there was some good work done on that. 2019, they extended the debt on that. So bonds, that's one area. Then there's a sinking fund, and then there's these things that's called a limited tax obligation bond. That is where the district doesn't even really have to go to the community. Let's say our boilers went down tomorrow, we could go this other route. We get the limited tax obligation bond. You pay interest on it. It's definitely not as friendly as going more of an upfront way, but it protects districts in case something major comes up. Kind of like you go get something. My stove broke, right? If I have to go get a loan to buy a new stove, for example, that's an option that we would always have on a much larger scale. But a sinking fund, that's one of the options that are out there. So as we talk about that, there's so many questions. We want your feedback, right? This is not my school. This is our school. We need to know what the community, what do we want to do? How do we want to move forward? We know there's needs out there.
We know that there is a declining enrollment, and it's not expected to turn around anytime soon. And that, again, that's a statewide thing. We're a little bit limited here because there's not a lot of residential growth. Again, a good thing in a lot of ways, but from a student enrollment standpoint, it causes a struggle. So we know this is happening, and our reality is where we are now. So that's why the conversation's here. Tomorrow morning, you're going to get an email from me. We're going to ask you for your input on it. Like, we want to know, the board wants to know. That was the final word at our board meeting in January, is like, let's talk to the community. Let's see what the community thinks. So truly, we're not asking you here because decisions have been made. We're asking you here so you can help us, help guide, share your voice, what direction you think that the district should go. So a sinking fund allows a school district to make improvements for specific purposes as allowed by the state. There's a bunch of them listed there. You'll read, like boilers, air handlers, all the things that we mentioned. It's not meant to do, we're not adding a building. It's not new construction. We're not looking to redo the baseball fields or things like that. Athletics aren't a part of it. It's to take care of the major needs that are in front of us now. That's what a sinking fund allows us to do. The electrical systems, I love to walk in the elementary and flip a switch or have like a motion sensor like the high school has versus popping a breaker. It's a learning opportunity for kids, I guess, though, when they see like, hey guys, what can a sinking fund be used for? Funds from a sinking fund cannot be used to pay for employee salaries, can't pay for benefits, can't pay for consumables, supplies, textbooks, routine maintenance. We can't, for mowing, for snow plowing, none of that's qualifiable. We can't replace classroom furniture. It strictly is a way that you have to only do what is on that approved list. So which is a great thing. We're not looking to abuse it. We're talking about this because it's an option that the district can possibly generate some revenue for and address some of those areas that we know are failing. How would they, number one question, right? How would they affect my taxes? I want to emphasize, I bolded it on the top one, taxable value, right? You have your market value of what your home is worth, like if you were to list it on the market today. When we start talking in a minute about like firm numbers, taxable value, it's most similar to your SEV value. Like my tax statement just came in the mail, like I think last week. I got it and I was looking at it. Your SEV value, it gets you really close, but that's more of your taxable value of your home. Significantly less than the market value. So I just want to emphasize when we're talking these numbers, don't think, okay, my house is worth $175,000 if I were to sell it today. If that's the case, the SEV value is roughly probably going to be about half of that. So it's important to know that it's not the market value, it is the taxable value. The district is considering, we can go up to 3 mills, as few as 0.25, up to 3 mills. We can go up to 10 years. That's kind of the framework of what a sinking fund, how it can be structured. And then revenue passed from a sinking fund would go directly towards addressing major facility needs, transportation needs, and safety. So safety and transportation are two of those allowable things. There's no more outside of there. There is technology, to be as transparent as possible. The intent would be not to use it for technology. We already have a county tech millage. That one's countywide. It's not Summerfield specific. But transportation could be looked at. It'd be nice to look at least having the option to set up like a bus purchase rotation where every couple years we're introducing a new bus to the fleet and getting our aging buses out, the ones especially that are taking a lot of money to maintain. And then safety. Safety is always allowable under a sinking fund too. And we do have some ideas on that. We had a meeting a couple months ago. We formed a safety team. I don't think anybody in here was with us. I know the fire department was represented. I see Mr. Neville and all that red back there. I know that we had a few individuals from the fire department there, but they've got some recommendations that they want to make too, with as far as safety. So here's some firm numbers. You see there's a couple highlighted rows. The average taxable value, that top one that's highlighted in more of the yellow, the average taxable value when we were emailing the assessor in the city, the average taxable value in the city is that $61,686. Down there in more of like the darker color, $115,995. That's the average taxable value in Summerfield Township. So they're all up there. The top row is 2 mills, 2.5 mills, 3 mills. It can get broken down even more. It could be 2, 2.25, 2.28. But just for an ease of calculating numbers, we just use the 2, the 2.5, and the 3. So in that left column, if you were to find roughly what your taxable value is and go across, that would show you the annual amount that a sinking fund would cost the taxpayer in your home. So we did break it down a little bit more, and again, we're going to share all this with you. So if you don't have it right now, not a big deal. We're going to get it to you in the morning. But here, if we break it down even more, so this is just using the average, right? So the 61,686, that's the average in the city. So that top table, if the request is 2 mills for that household, it's $123.37 a year. And just breaking that down further so we can see what it looks like, it's $10.28 a month. It's 34 cents a day if you take that taxable value, do the math, and divide it by 365. So if the district were to move forward, and this is where we want your opinion, so make sure you're just hearing and prepared to share with us, and we will have questions at the end too if you have any. That's what the cost would be. The township, if you look below it, the average taxable value of $115,995. Follow that along, and this is the only one I'm going to read to you, and you guys can see it in front of you. But the annual cost for the average home in the township, $231.99 a year, $19.33 a month, or 64 cents a day. Then the middle table is if it was a 2.5 mil request. The bottom table is if it was a 3 mil request. And when I emailed you too, I can share the formula with you. Really, no matter what your taxable value is, it's easy to kind of plug in and do the math. There's a formula behind it, so we'll definitely share that with you tomorrow too. So you can your residents that you live in, you can speak directly to it. And I think that's really all that I have. We didn't think you'd mind if we didn't say a full hour. Definitely wanted to leave time for any questions you might have. The goal, most of you don't know me yet. I'm going to be as transparent as possible with you. This is not just, I'm only 6 months in. Mr. Sallow, when he and I talked during the transition phase, that's one of the first things he said. He's like, listen, boilers have to be a priority. I'm right in front of that camera if whoever's watching. I need to back up. Boilers need to be looked at. The roof needs to be looked at. It's been in the works for a while. It's just at that point now where we need to make some decisions. If we were to go out for a sinking fund and it works, great. We have a plan. If we were to go out and it were to fail, well, we regroup and we come up with a different way forward. I don't know what that is, speaking to you right now, but either way, business is going to go on. We're going to do what we can. We're going to support kids. We're going to put the best product in front of you that we can. We're just looking at options right now, and your opinion is needed. So with all that, talked about a lot, anything from student counts all the way to sinking funds. Are there any specific questions that I'll be around after too if you want to wait, but is there anything you want to ask now going into it, Mr. Stenger?
The extension of 2019, when does that run out?
Yep, good question. Right now there's a rollback in the levied amount in 2031. In 2035, that is off the books. So just to recap, there was the 2005 bond. It went out. The one thing we didn't mention is Mr. Hewitt, he refinanced the bond in 2015. That was done to lower the taxes on the community. When that was done, there was no money brought out into the school. It was just a responsible thing to do to support the community. So rates allowed that. Right now, rates don't even allow looking at that as an option. And then in 2019, we added 4 years to that bond. That knocks it off the books here. There's a big rollback going into the 31 tax year, and then all the way off post 2034. Yep, good question. Other questions? So the debt millage will reduce to 0 at the end of 2034, long story short. Anything else? Again, I'll be up here, call, email, stop in, we'll talk about this anytime. But the purpose tonight, we're excited to share the good things about the district, but we also wanted to share some of the challenges we're looking at. And really, we appreciate whatever feedback you can give, whether it's in person when we're done tonight, whether you wait for my email tomorrow and you respond. It'll probably have a Google form on it where you can provide some input on a variety of areas. We want to know, what do you think? Would you be willing to support something like this? If so, maybe at what amount? If not, we need to know that. We don't want to waste our time and your time. We'll regroup and we'll keep looking at options if we need to. So, Ms. Bucher, Ms. Klosinski, am I missing anything? Okay, there's a little bit of pizza left. There's drinks. We appreciate you taking the time tonight. Again, I'll be up here. Feel free, stop up, introduce yourself, ask questions, and it's looking forward, if I haven't met you, looking forward to meeting everyone here soon. So, thank you.